Hello, everyone. I'm Adam White. Welcome to Masters of Data. I have with me Cassandra Mooseberger, and David Gervin. Hello, friends. Cass,
Hello.
you're new to the podcast. This is your first time, at least. We hope to be able to have you back many more times. But would you just introduce yourself real quick? And
Yep.
that'd be great.
Yep, absolutely. Long-time listener, first-time caller. I'm
Mhm.
Cass. I'm the manager of security compliance over here at Sumo Logic.
Wonderful, wonderful. Great to have you. We love our listeners, so thank you. Today we are talking about a topic that is near and dear to your heart, I know, and near and dear to mine and David's as well, which is GRC compliance, like the whole world
Yep.
of governance, risk, and compliance. And um, I think it's something that we'll talk about too, kind of like all of the areas of the business that it touches. But just give us kind of your view on what is GRC, what is compliance,
Yep.
what does that world look like as far as CAS is concerned?
Yeah, so I approach this world, I would say, in my own special way. I think that there's a million ways to do GRC. You can see it across lots of different tech companies, startup versus not. I think it can be translated depending on how you need it and what the size of your org is, how complex your environment may be. So for us and for how I like to look at it, I look at it in three pillars. Obviously, you have traditional pillars, which is GRC, so governance, risk, and compliance. We name ours a little bit differently with security compliance. Same stuff, different bag, different titles. That being said, I like to consolidate my pillars a little bit. So we have governance and compliance in one bucket. They're basically besties. They feed each other, and I think they live in the same land. Risk, obviously, we all know risk. And then the last one I like is trust. I incorporate trust, which you could put trust in a little bit of every pillar, anyways. But I think it's how you can make a GRC program really, really successful. You move a GRC from being a cost center to being somebody that helps sales. And obviously, we know reports and attestation help sales regardless. But leaning into that and integrating yourself and your departments as part of the sales process, rather than avoiding them, we want to enable them in every way that we can. So that's creating different artifacts to try and help sellers sell a little bit easier, help them understand compliance without having to be those schmees like we are. So that trust
Yeah,
pillar is one of my favorites. I think a lot of industry leans into that pillar a little bit more in their own special way, but it's something that we incorporate really closely here at Sumo Logic.
that's cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
On
Cass is my
the Oh, go ahead,
Cass
Dave.
is my spirit animal.
That's awesome.
He understands that like security is one of the most important things for the business if it doesn't jam up the business. And like
Yep.
that's why we became friends in the company because she does a really good job at this kind of stuff. Like she just kind of, you know, blah, blah,
She
blah, blah,
gets
blah,
it.
blah, like
So
trust hit
nice.
all the little points, but the reality is
Yep.
she created trust page for us. She enables sales. She deals with all the other annoying GRC people. Like she's solid. So keep going, keep going. But I said that
Yeah.
level
It's
set.
tough,
Right? We have to balance it, right? Risk is really, really important, but enabling sales and getting out of their way is also really important. So how can we have one, but also have the other without them hurting each other, right? So finding a balance is really difficult and it's different at every organization. I mean, it's something that I'm continuously trying to improve here. I wouldn't say I have it perfect by any means, but we do our best to try and get out of the way of business, but without creating additional risk in other
Yeah.
places for ourselves.
It's interesting. It's probably an oversimplification, but the difference between governance and compliance, like governance being kind of like frameworks that you operate around, compliance, kind of like how do we audit ourselves against that? How do we measure, the degree to which we've followed our governance guidelines? Like those
Mhm.
seem I know they have external implications, but they seem kind of like internal, processes a lot. Trust
Mhm.
is like a lot of the external reflection of that
Yep.
seemingly, right? Like how you communicate that externally and get people to like buy into, okay, like they are doing the right things and this is how we know that.
Yep.
That's
There's so much
fair.
crossover. Yeah,
Yeah.
there's crossover all over the map between both of them. I mean, governance and compliance, that's how we say, okay, we're going to do it against this certain framework, say SOC 2. Okay, great. We've got it on the back end. We've done it across corporate. We've done it across product. Then you have those external bodies come in, audit us against that, right? And then that output, that trust layer is the consumption and the sharing of that report with our customers to show we do what we say what we do. This is how we do it. We're happy to share it. We're excited to share it because we work hard, right? So behind the frame, I mean, yeah, we're the people that are enforcing it or chasing or trying to fix and tweak layers of risk or how we've implemented certain controls or certain important security frameworks. But truly, like those internal stakeholders are the ones that carry it day in, day out because it is part of day in, day out, right? It's security by design. It's, hey, I'm going to build this once because if we do it right the first way or the first time, then you can carry it forward and it makes that auditing and that output and that trust layer so much easier to validate.
Yeah. It feels like some portion of your job at least has to be like getting different parts of the company to talk to one another.
Yeah.
like like
A
working to
friend
get like
maker.
yeah, like be
Yeah.
okay, you're all stakeholders here,
Yep.
like make sure you're all aligned on how this thing builds to, us
Absolutely.
being compliant.
It's
Yep.
like the
Totally.
same thing we've talked about. Like AppSec has to do the same thing, right? They're the like bridge people and the engineering team and those kind of things.
Yep.
The RC team has to do the same, but they have to do it with legal, with business, with ops, I mean,
Yep.
they have to do it even more. Kind of with engineering, but they usually sick AppSec on engineering. But
All those symbiotic relationships. Yeah,
yeah,
for sure.
it's just social engineering. I told you, all security is social engineering a culture. That's it. That's all it is.
Yep. It's hard. It's really interesting, and I think a lot of different GRC teams do it differently. I'm somebody that I'm like, okay, when I get here, I need to make sure I make some friends. It makes things a million times easier. Means I can bring the right people to the table. It means I can bring other people to the table. And I'm like, okay, we're friends. You're not friends with them, but I'm friends with them. Let's all pretend that we're friends for a little while. And if we've beef later, then we can have convos later. But I promise I can be that center pillar. And if you trust me, come to the table because I'm gonna help. But we've got to cross over, cross the bridge.
Yeah.
Let's meet each other. We can do it. I promise. And if we can't, we'll get there eventually, a little
It,
bit at
it
a time.
it's so much of what you touched on too, Cass, and I'm sure we'll talk more about this, but like, GRC or, compliance in general, like your goal is really not the Department of No. It's
Yeah.
just like crafting the right path for the business that helps
Yeah.
achieve outcomes while not creating more risk than
Yeah.
is necessary. So
Yeah, exactly. I don't want to be the Department of No. Occasionally, as a disclaimer with an asterisk next to it, I have to be, right? There are
yeah.
certain risks that just aren't worth absorbing. But a lot of times there are, and I would say in most cases, such an in between where it's like, okay, we might not be able to do this exactly how you presented it, but walk me through what your idea is here. Walk me through your process. Let's look at it. Let's drill into it a little bit further and say, okay, if we tweak it in a couple small places, it can be a yes. We just need to modify a little bit from where we've started. And that's what is so important in GRC is being able to translate that in-between layer of if you partner with them, if you determine yourself to want to understand, a lot of times you can find things where it's like, oh, this is actually not that bad on the top layer. It's just how you initially presented it. It looked really scary and probably really bad, and we shouldn't do it. And I should say no. So
Yeah.
I think a lot of it's just the translating and the wanting to understand and wanting to partner with other departments, even if it's not necessarily seeming like innately your responsibility. There's so much positive growth that can come from leaning into that, spending a little bit extra cycle, even if you have a lean department, because you learn so much in that edge case anyways.
Yeah. To your point, getting to the same or, very, very similar outcome, maybe just
Yeah,
a slightly different path of
exactly.
getting there, one that's more beneficial to the security of the business.
Completely.
So yeah,
Yep.
that's cool. So we've kind of talked about, like um, we've talked about some of the like not being a blocker, being an enabler, and
Yep.
really reframing, those kinds of things as positive. Like here, we're here to work with you.
Totally.
We're here to, drive those outcomes. Like some of the interactions that you have, like having to be deliberate when you work with
Yep.
engineers or meeting somewhere where they are, kind of talk about some of those like ways that you work around some of those situations where you're kind of having to like help the person kind of meander. Does that
Yes.
question make sense?
Yeah, totally makes sense to me. Again, translation is always so fun.
Yeah.
No matter who it is, where it is, it might be engineering, it may be legal, it may
Yeah.
be HR, it may be anywhere in the business. Like I hate to single out engineers because like they are the builders. I mean, they're
Yes.
geniuses in their own sense.
Can
I
be quite
think,
literal. I think that's something that,
yeah.
is not a secret. So, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So I think a lot of it is just meeting them where they are. So in a lot of cases, I am not the SME. I am not an engineer. I don't write code. Meeting them where they're at and making sure that they know that you're in it with them, I think is one of the biggest pieces for me.
Yeah.
I'm going in it to truly want to understand, and I'm never going to understand in the way they do. I am 100% aware that I am not the SME. I have no desire to be the SME, but even just walking down to their level and understanding it from their perspective before I'm going to interject what I need. A lot of it is just understanding where they're at, and then you want to get to that end line of like, okay, maybe I just need this piece of this output to show that we're compliant with this control, right? And you listen
Yeah.
and you learn. And the more you listen and learn, in a lot of cases, most of the cases I've interacted within, there's so many little pieces that can get us here that it takes such minor tweaks that you're like, oh, I understand your process now. What do you think about this? And then it creates a feedback loop where they understand that there's a degree of mutual respect there, that they know I care about what they're doing. I'm not trying to make it harder. They understand that I want a baseline with where they are. We've just got to find a way to get to this point together. But as long as I'm willing to work with them, in most cases, I haven't run into many issues where they're like, no, Miss Lady, we're not changing even one
Yeah.
lick of it because they know that I'm not just trying to re-architect something that I don't understand at all, which makes a big
Yeah.
difference.
I mean, that's that holistic approach, right? You're not trying to force them into what you want it to be. You're trying to
Yep.
create good security practices from what it actually is.
Yeah, exactly. And I think one of the biggest pieces of it, and I think is something that we can reform an easy sentence of, okay, we have one size fits all. I can promise you, when I buy a dress, one size does not fit all. But when they've written a lot of these frameworks, they've written them in a way that they can apply to different types of businesses, different sizes of businesses. So it's truly one size fits all from a framework perspective. They've created windows in. Of course, there's some requirements that you can't flirt with that you're like, I got to do it the way they said it. And there's not much in between there, but in a lot of cases, there is a one size fits all of like, okay, we can find a way to make this applicable to us, to how our business operates, to how we've built something and tweak it from there to make sure, okay, if we can't get exactly the letter of the law here, what downstream protections can we apply to elevate and make sure that we have the nature of this control implemented how they would have desired it to be done so?
Yeah. That makes perfect sense. I love what you said about like you're in it with them, that partnership and the kind of the mutual understanding that you're trying to seek, about like what they're actually trying to do.
Yeah,
Just that listening and that understanding alone, I'm sure, is a big bridge builder in these
it can be.
interactions.
In most cases, yes. I would
Yeah,
say, like anything, there is an asterisk that goes with absolutely anything in life that sometimes it doesn't work that way. And it's okay. You're not going to mesh and gel with everybody, but sometimes you just have to turn the corner a little bit. And maybe there's another person in that same department where you're like, okay, I'm not getting it. I need somebody to bring it even further down. I'm really sorry. Like, I just don't get it. Help me out. And sometimes it's just by doing that, you make even more friends across the business, which makes it even easier to be like, hey, I'm getting these new bits. I see it and I get it from this perspective. I know your process is from this perspective and this perspective. Baseline with me. How far off from reality in your world am I when I go and pitch this to some other folks, which at the end of the day, it just makes all the difference in the world with making sure we're doing sizing right and timing right and capacity planning right and road mapping right. It's easy to ask others for things when you already understand how big their pipe already is to say, realistically, Cass can't say I need this tomorrow because I know they have all of these massive initiatives that something's going to have to get deprioritized. And I know how to baseline that because I've had that conversation.
yeah. Hey, I've got a curveball for you. I
Love a
just I
curveball.
just thought about.
Pitch it. Come
Um,
on, give it to us.
what is like annoyance is probably the wrong word, but like what's something that comes across your desk or comes across your to-do list and you're like, I wish if they had just done this differently or that differently or brought it to me earlier. Probably like the tyranny of the urgent is one of the biggest things with compliance, I guess. Like we need this today or yesterday or tomorrow. Any of those things are probably bad. But like what are some of those things? And this is really for our audience, like just things that they
Perfect.
can keep in mind working with
Yep.
GRC, where they can be on the friend side and not
Yeah.
the naughty list.
It's interesting that you mention it. I think the biggest piece for me, and this is my personal experience, very different for others, I am sure. They probably feel that way about certain controls or certain departments. I lean into the trust pillar when it comes to that. Our team doesn't inherently do all questionnaires. We have another Rockstar team internally that does that. But when sales comes to us and is like, I needed this done yesterday, and I'm like, well, should I look at this thread and see how long you sat on it before you brought it to us? Or, hey, do you even know what reports and attestations we have? Did you know we have a trust center that automates the delivery of those things? And it's kind of one of those things where it's like, I could be better and more proactive about being diligent, almost in a roadshow kind of situation of like, do I need to go reteach sales or other
Yeah.
departments? What do we got and why is it important? How can you self-service? How can you help your customers and your prospects self-service? I think the best way, that's my side of, okay, I don't like what they do, but is there a piece of it that I could be fixing?
Mhm.
I think the biggest piece is be really realistic. Of course, it depends on your GRC professional. I always appreciate when sales especially comes to me and they baseline off the rip and they say, "Hey, I sat on it too long. I dropped the ball. I need help. I need to do this." Or, "Hey, I've already tried to take a swing." That's always the biggest thing for me is did they even try to fill something out? Have they looked at that questionnaire? Are they just onboarding the supplier itself and they just need Sumo's most like literally our name and some emails and how we give them some money or how we get their money. So just making sure that they're actually aware of what they're trying to hand off before they hand it off. Because I'm always willing to help. I want to help sales sell. Sales is always going to sell, and I get that. But just making sure they're reading and that they know what they're throwing over the fence. Because we're going to help, but it helps when they're just transparent about either they dropped the ball or they have no idea what they're looking at and they just need some help.
Yeah.
Small rant. Security questionnaires suck. Like we have to go through all this
Nobody
crap
likes them.
anyways. We have to do a SOC 2, we gotta do NIST, we gotta do all these things.
Yep.
And then someone sends you like an 800-page questionnaire of
Yep.
crap. They don't even read it because they ask
Yep.
you the same questions in a
Take it.
call.
5 ways to Sunday. I will
Oh,
say it is getting better out there. There's a lot of tools. If people got money to spend on tools, there are a lot of tools that are doing an excellent job at getting better about those. I
Cutting down on some of that like manual work, or I
Mhm.
mean that
Yep.
it's kind of a
Using AI
perfect
to
place
automate
for
it. Yeah.
AI.
Ingest
Exactly.
our
Yeah.
reports, tell us how many of these questions it's going to answer. There's some
Yep.
excellent tools out there that are really doing a cutting edge job at kind of cutting through that noise. I will say highly regulated industries are never going to lessen the questions in their questionnaire, which is unfortunate. They have to do it, which sucks from a regulatory perspective. We're a different type of regulatory, so I'm grateful for that. But it's always interesting interacting with like massive, massive banks because they have a very specific way to do it and they
Yep.
need a specific way for it to be answered. So it makes the line in the sand a little bit hard to work through. But I think having internal tools that can kind of help you get through a lot of the noisy questions, get to the baseline of, okay, from this bank, how many of these questions do I actually need to answer versus how many are already answered by the 5 different reports and attestations we already maintain.
Yeah.
yeah.
And that we're linking to in the document already. Yeah.
Please go to my trust center. It's the best place to go. I promise you can get a lot of answers, but a lot of times like their jobs are hard because they have a click box nature. It's
Yeah.
tough when GRC gets to be that way. It's okay. Not everything can be checkbox and not everything cannot be checkbox. But hopefully they start erring on the side of, okay, how can we enable ourselves rather than throw it over the fence and pray the vendor wants to answer all of these questions rather than we self-service some of them. So I think it's
You're a
trending in a
mind
better
reader.
direction, but
You're a mind reader, right, Cass? Isn't that what
a
your
little.
like part of your job description?
I try.
Yeah.
I
Right.
If
probably
you
only nail it about 14% of the time. So when I put my foot in my mouth, I'll just go pull it right back out. So
Right. Right.
If you
Yeah.
write in crayon, it makes it easy. I used to get security
Like
engineers all the
scratch it
time.
off with your
History
fingernail,
questions.
kind of.
I mean, I just write like a 5-year-old, so no one wants my answers. Like I know what's going on, but
Mm.
without Zoe, everybody would think I'm illiterate. So it works.
We're all happy for Zoe. So Cass, question like if you were setting up a GRC, governance compliance department from
Yep.
scratch, what does the first 90 days look like? I mean, obviously you have to get in and kind of understand your environment, but like, what are some of the things that you like have to do in those first 90 days?
Are we talking from like a startup perspective? Are we starting very, very from scratch, or am I starting with like just bringing some new folks in?
I think maybe just a couple of nuggets from both. Like if somebody is just starting,
Mhm.
and then if you were to parachute into a medium to large size business, like what would
Yep.
be some of the things you're looking at? Obviously, different profiles, but it'll be
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah, so I would say from starting a new program perspective, say I'm at a teeny bopper startup, I would start small and do the little things easily and simple. If you're already just starting to build a product and it hasn't already been built, leaning into security by design, leaning into privacy by design, knowing where you kind of want to go, I think makes a big difference. Having the right people also makes a difference, but staying plugged in um, can really, really help. So when you're building really, really quickly, it can be tough to stay ahead of that. So just making sure you're building kind of rough outlines around everything can kind of start you on a strong foot. If you already know you're going to want to go after a FedRAMP, even as a startup, and you want to cut into that space, not that anybody should or would, because that's a big fish. It's something that you can take into consideration. What are the hardest things that we're going to have to solve for? Are we going to have to solve for FIPS everywhere? Are we going to have to solve certain layers of other encryption within the product? Are we going to need, if you're going Fed high, are you going to need only federally high authorized products when you go to get authorized for that tool? So I think it makes a difference to one, know where you're going. Two, if you have no idea where you're going, start simple and try to build a framework to do security by design, privacy by design, because both those things are inherently hard once you start moving a lot faster. So if you start easy and you start by doing it and building the frame as you're still building, it can kind of give you some wins early to where when you make decisions later on where you're going, it's a little bit easier.
Yeah. I guess in some ways, like you're gonna wear a lot of hats in
Oh,
that job, I mean, and it'll probably maybe you won't get a lot of sleep,
yeah.
but it's also nice to have kind of influence on the beginning of even from like a development practice and security
Yep,
by design
yep,
assuming
yep,
that you have that influence. Let's
absolutely.
assume that you do. It would be nice because
Yep,
you're building something that's kind of starting from a place of maturity. What
yep,
if you get into a business where that wasn't the case, or as is
yep,
common, there have been like M&A activity, and so you've
yeah,
got different code bases, you've got
yeah.
different engineering practices, those kinds of things. Like, does that change any of your calculus on kind of like what that 90 days looks like?
Yeah, absolutely. So starting from scratch is very, very different than coming into something that's already been built. And it very much differs on what those levels of security look like from if you do an M&A perspective. Can you grab something off of what the other company is doing really, really
Mhm.
well and kind of interweave yourselves within
Merge the
it?
two a bit.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. So I think it can kind of depend. I think coming into somewhere is typically what we're going to experience more so than a lot of the brand new startings. Yes, we wear a lot of hats, even in both cases, and I think that's
Yeah,
something that's really important. I saw the funniest meme. This guy joined his meetings with literally 9 hats stacked all the way up on his head. And
it's
he's
really
like,
funny.
I'm just showing him all the things that I do because I wear all the hats. And I think you do that even in a regular day. I think that's something that isn't different for most GRC professionals. Like we do wear a lot of different hats, and it's important because we do get a really deep understanding within the business. I work really close with legal. I work really close personally with sales because I think that's a pillar that I really believe in is important to us. Not everybody's the same. Same thing with engineering, same thing with HR, whoever it may be. So wearing those hats is really important, and you're going to get that wherever you go, regardless. 90 days at somewhere that you're doing M&A or is already established, um, it's hard picking which one you would want to go after first. I think rip and replace is the way to fail. I know that it's really tough to. Again, you want to go in and listen. And again, it makes a big difference what the company is like, what the people are like, what your product is like. But making sure you're going in and listening and saying, okay, this is really tough. This is really tough to where you can create almost a risk profile, I guess I would call it, to where you can rank, okay, these things are kind of the biggest fish that we're not really doing very excellent from the way I understand it. Here's the next set. Here's the next set. Do we want to try and pick and target with other department leads in mind of like, hey, these are some gaps that we're going to need to close the space on at least even a little bit. Which ones can we prioritize and pull a little bit from you to make sure we can kind of make a little bit of improvement? You can't improve everything overnight because you can't rip and replace everything overnight. You're going to break more. You're definitely going to piss a whole lot of people off. You can try, and I would
It's
love to hear
that
somebody
one.
who's been successful at it. Like, go ahead at me. I would love to know that success story and learn from you. I haven't seen it be successful yet, but again, I could be green in that nature. But I think just making sure that you're working with other individuals and making sure you're prioritizing, sizing, and making sure you're going after the right risks out the
Yeah.
gate or even early on. Just make sure you keep listening because there could be more later. And you don't even know if you stop listening because you're like, oh, this one big thing, we're doing that and we're only doing that to start with. Like you might miss a lot by just not hearing the rest of the combo.
You touched on something that I think is so undervalued in organizations in general, but is change, change management,
Really
people's
hard.
reluctance to change. I
Yep.
mean, you really do on the rip and replace thing, you really have to weigh like how bad does this thing suck
Yeah.
versus our capacity to change as an
Yep.
organization, be it
Yep.
process or, in the like M&A front, that's change unto itself. You're bringing in new
Massive
people.
changes.
A lot of times there are, org changes and things, and so people are already their head is spinning,
Yep.
and then you go in and you change, you rip out tools and try and implement new
Yep.
things, and consultants are involved. And so all I'm saying is like
Totally.
that whole change thing is it can't be underestimated how disruptive that can be, and potentially
Yep.
more so than whatever you were trying to change from and its
Yep.
inefficiency.
Yep. Totally.
Can you tell I have scar tissue in this particular?
I think everybody has a bit of scar tissue
Yeah.
somewhere. I mean, from either having something you were doing rip and replaced or being a part of something and needing to do some of the rip and replacing. Like there's a reason why some of it was built that way in the first place. And I think getting to the root of, okay, do we know where that came from? Was there a decision made? Are those people still here that made that decision? Why did we do it that way? And kind of unpacking almost that trauma of like, okay, does it still make sense? If it does, maybe it still does, but there's some other downstream pieces that it's like, this might still make sense, but are there other protections that we could work towards to kind of make this a little bit less scary without having to rip and replace the biggest piece of
Oh,
it?
it should definitely start with group therapy. You're absolutely
Yeah,
right.
a little bit of
Yeah.
like, was anybody traumatized this week? Did anybody get yelled
Yeah.
at?
Right.
Did
Yeah.
anybody break anything? Hopefully not,
Exactly.
but you never know.
Yeah.
It's interesting you say the group therapy thing because like I'm thinking of past positions where I had a really good GRC guy and I was basically building the security team and we got together with stakeholders. We had like the two founders, we had a sales guy in there, and we looked at business objectives and we also threat modeled them. And that was more my side, like because I think like a broken criminal. But it worked really good because we were working cross organization, trying to like solve problems. We knew who was going to affect on our teams, those kind of things. When
Yep.
he left, we had another guy who sucked,
Oh
and
no.
he became the
Oh
Department
no.
of No. And he didn't want to talk about anything. He's just thinking he's going to
That's
be
tough.
some, big dog director. And man, like in the same organization, seeing the night and day difference between those two people and how they handled it cross organization with communication and empathy.
Yep.
Um, yeah, it's like it's just a different world. So I completely agree.
It's
Yeah.
it's interesting how a little bit of proactive communication can totally change the way that something lands of like, hey, PCI pushed out a new version. And this
Have
is
fun.
like, I don't know, 2024, 2023. We're already getting 2022 simulations of like, okay, they're pushing out a new version. Engineering, hey, leads, I promise you're gonna hate me by the end of this, but 2 years from now, we're gonna have to implement these changes or have them fully implemented. Be prepared. Year later, hey, it's still me. I'm checking back in and I'm gonna start hitting your lines a lot more. We have still a really long runway. However, if we don't start now, you're gonna dislike me a lot. Like, I
Yeah.
don't want to be that guy, so I'm telling you now, the more I tell you, you're probably gonna get tired of hearing from me, but you're gonna be happy about it because at least I'm not telling you, hey, I was supposed to implement this last week, and we're being audited against it next week. So everybody drop everything. The house is on fire. Fix it. Nobody
Every
does that.
subsequent interaction is more aggressive. Like it
Oh
only
yeah, it
gets
just
more
goes
aggressive from
downhill
here. Yeah.
all at
Right.
once,
Like,
quickly and all at once. So
yeah.
the proactive communication layer can change everything. Not always, but it can in most cases.
Yeah. Cass, something that's always fascinated me about the whole GRC landscape in general is just like the concept of risk. And
Mhm.
my mind, all risk is bad, all risk should be avoided, but that's not the reality
It's not
of
reality. No.
business. Yeah, I mean
Mm-mm.
it's so there is such a thing as acceptable risk,
There can be.
tolerated risk,
Yep.
all kinds of like different. Can you talk about like how you think about that, and maybe there's a framework that I don't know about just on
Yep.
this topic, but
Yeah, so there risk tolerance is very, very different. Company basis. I'm probably gonna get tired of singing the same record, spinning around in the same circle. It works very differently for different organizations, and I think even more granular than that, it's very different from a leadership perspective. So
Mhm.
some CISOs have chief information security officers for those who don't like acronyms, since everything's an acronym noodle soup in security or in tech in most cases, and it's different at every tech company. That being said, it's different. Risk tolerance is very, very different from leader to leader. I live in the camp of there is some acceptable risk. There is a balance, right? We cannot do everything by the letter of the law 100% of the time. I've gotten speeding tickets in my life, so we all know that you can be a grandma on the road, you can be a speeder on the road. Inevitably, there's a million different ways for us to get there, but um, there are a million different ways for us to get there, and there are some risks that are mitigated by other downstream effects, and that's the way I
Mm,
see it, right? So there's a couple different ways that you can see it, and I think one of the most common frameworks, or one we very heavily use because it's so simple, is treat, tolerate, transfer, and terminate. I think that comes from ISO, if I'm delusional enough. We have so many now that I could not honestly 100% confirm which one it comes from. Pretty sure
yeah,
it's ISO. But again, you can treat it. Again, you're going to fix whatever's broken. I have a penetration test. I get a finding. Oh, that makes sense. That's not something
it's
we
a
want to
small
have out
finding, not
there.
a big
Yeah,
deal. I'll treat
exactly.
it.
Even
Yeah.
if it's a big finding and it's something like,
Mm,
oh, we were unaware, we want to fix it. Great. We're going to treat it. There
yeah.
is a tolerate of like, okay, this doesn't make sense for us to go after right now. It's in a very cut off place. It's not something that's accessible via the internet or via our customers, whatever it may be. We're going to tolerate it because it's not something that we have the time, money, or capacity to go after. But there's already too many protections on the downstream layer that it doesn't make sense for us to spend that time or money to go after it, right?
Yeah.
And then you have transfer again, give it to someone else to solve that problem. I don't do that often, but you never know. Everybody loves a punt. And then
I
a
Is
do.
there
terminate.
is there any component, Cass? I mean, I know cyber insurance is a
Mhm.
huge thing. Like,
Massive.
is cyber insurance a proxy in some way for the transference of risk?
Um, it
I
could
guess
be.
for the result of risk gone wrong, but it's
Yeah,
not like you're
It,
could be.
it will be.
Yeah.
So right now, cybersecurity is in a place where it's not as mature as regular insurance. The
Yep.
data points on regular insurance is insane. So they know
Yep.
exactly how much they need to charge you to make sure they make a percentage profit across the data.
Yep.
Cyber insurance is kind of immature in that space, but it's working towards it. And
Mhm.
sorry, I have like a lot of friends in this space. But
No sorry
right
needed here ever.
Yeah, right now they're just they're gonna charge you lowest common denominator. What's
Yeah.
gonna happen soon though is you're gonna start seeing more of this. Like right now, they require you to have a SIM, right? You have to
Mhm.
log. Soon it's going to get a lot
Logs.
deeper. Yay, logs. It's going to get a lot deeper though. They're going to start being like, okay, well, from our data points, we
Yeah.
see, Root Evidence is a company that's doing a lot of
Yep.
this research. We see
Hmm.
that only the top 36 CVEs are being exploited. You have to be
Hmm.
covered by them or you're going to drop your insurance. The
Yep.
other 18,000 CVEs that we have now, we don't care as much about. So I
Yep.
think we're going to see like a landscape change. But before I give the mic back, I just want to say if I would have known that Cass had had a speeding ticket, I wouldn't have showed up on this podcast because
I know.
man,
And just an open lawbreaker, right? I mean,
Okay, I'm
disgusting.
hey, I am
Disgusting.
transparent. Everybody knows what they see is what they get. Like I'm transparent through and through on all the things. Like I'm not gonna say I've never tripped an SLA on something. Like I'm not perfect. I don't ask people to come to the table as perfect. I'm willing to show my cards to say like, hey, my bad. I didn't mean it. Like
For the
I'm
record,
not gonna
I am
sweep it under the
perfect.
rug.
For the record, I am perfect.
Oh, okay. Just David though.
I'm
Just
not.
me.
Yeah,
Yeah, I was like,
I'm pretty,
me and Adam
yeah,
over here, like, hi, just
yeah,
silly old us. Like,
Yeah. I've never done anything wrong in my entire life.
never, not once,
If
no.
my FBI handler is listening to me, hi.
Where's my
um,
phone? Can I put it in my pocket or bury it in some dirt? I don't know. Put my head in the sand.
so you said terminate was the last one, like
Yep,
last
yep,
one on the four
yep,
T's of risk, if you
mm,
will.
yep. Just a false positive, so it may not be even applicable to us. So the way that it's been discovered, the way it's been exploited, air quotes on exploited, to
I
be
think David's
sure.
saying he's perfect as a false positive, for
Yeah, that's what I'm
example.
saying. Like,
Yeah.
let me just terminate that risk because we're certain that he's not like that's not real. Like he's not
Well,
being truthful. So it can be something that just is terminated because it's not something that's actually a risk within our environment. A lot of times you
Right.
have to show evidence of that, but again, in most of those cases, it just isn't something that needs to be addressed.
this
Nice.
is like the huge fake problem in AppSec right now. Like I'm a 100% SAS hater, SAST, SAST, static analysis, um, because it brings up all these stupid alerts, and then you go through an auditor and they're like, "Well, you have 75 critical vulnerabilities." I'm like, "Yeah, behind a WAF, a firewall, encrypted
Behind
data."
8 million layers. Yep.
Dude, I mean, it's like
Yeah.
it's because no one actually understands the offensive security side, I think, on the other side.
Mhm.
So
Yep.
it's like you get people who become auditors, not all of them, but you get a lot of people who become auditors and they're like accountants. So they like learn how to like this is bad, you can't have this, can't have this, but they don't
Yep.
understand that like I could actually have all this. If you get to that to exploit it, I'm already so screwed it doesn't matter. So it doesn't really
Yep.
matter. But then you try to explain that and they're like, "No, you're just not doing things right." That was like my nightmare dealing with like compliance stuff is like I'd be trying to explain to people you can't actually exploit all the vulnerabilities we have.
Auditors
Exactly.
also have to find things or they're not good auditors. So, I mean, that I think is where the kind of tolerate part comes in. Like as a business, we can tolerate this
They
risk.
have to
We
dig
don't
in
actually
somewhere.
see it as risk. So,
Yep.
um,
It's a great
so
opportunity though. Like there's
yeah,
a great opportunity from like an exercise perspective of like, okay, they see something a bit different than us. What are they seeing that we're not? And make sure that we're considering all angles of a problem or even a solution to make sure that we've thought about it in both capacities. I would again, I'm not perfect, and there have been cases where it's like, oh, I I didn't even read the control that way. Excellent point. May need to tweak how we've written our policy or tweak how we've
yeah,
implemented something a little bit because they see it in the way that that language has been written a little bit differently, where we can apply it and still be caught in both edge cases and be compliant with what we're doing, but we hadn't seen it or interpreted it that same way that that otter may have. So there is strength in getting those things as well
yeah,
because
good
it
point.
gives us an opportunity to look a little bit closer from somebody else's perspective.
Yeah,
I think this also is another case where AI is actually going to help because
I agree.
some of the stuff like I've worked with a few guys who are building like automated pen testing and like as a product, I'm not like super into it. I think it is the future. But what
Yeah.
interests me is exploit paths. And you're seeing really cool companies like Indoor and some of the other ones doing this as well. I think it's going to be a lot different when you can show visually or explain on paper very easily, like,
Hmm.
hey, this is a problem, we're going to fix it, but we're going to fix it in 20 cycles because it's going to cost us $800,000 to fix in
Yep.
dev. And look at the exploit chain. Right now, it's impossible. We ran an automated AI pen test on it. It
Yep.
can't get to it. We can look at our internal tools and it shows the exploit path and we know where to block it.
Yep.
Like that's where security and GRC are like really maturing on the AI side, and it's really exciting. I mean, I don't wish I was still an AppSec leader because it's a hard job, but I wish I had that when
Great.
I was instead of trying to like draw these stupid whiteboards out to people that don't know what I'm talking about, which was half of my job, I feel like.
Oh, gotta love a whiteboarding session.
Yeah, especially
Cass,
when you write in crayon.
yeah, on the topic of AI, like I know we talked about answering like questionnaires
Yep.
earlier. Are there
Yep.
other things that are kind of top of mind from an AI perspective as it relates to GRC that you would call out?
Yeah, I mean, AI is an awesome enhancement to headcount, in my opinion.
Mhm.
That's an absolutely heinous way to say it. But it saves us time across the board, right? So something that I think a lot of GRC professionals, dependent upon your size, of course, but something that we're going to be leaning into heavily and something that I know a lot of places are already doing, AI is only going to improve even more so is evidence collection. That's where we spend a lot of our time. I think some of the biggest pieces, especially for GRC, is not being a cost center. Um,
Like for like forensic kind of evidence or what
a
kind of
little bit,
like,
but in the sense of like from an audit, right? So
yeah,
think about the tax that it is to the business. And we call it, oh God, now it's blanking my mind. But basically reducing the tax to the business. How much time do I need to steal from engineers that I would rather have working on the product,
yeah,
or improving other pieces, developing new features that they would be spending in live interviews with our auditors that I can give back because we've integrated a GRC tool of some kind that has an AI function that can help us do that evidence collection automated. Pull
almost like
those
a
things.
lost opportunity cost concept for the time of
Exactly,
developers. Yeah.
exactly. So we're
Yeah.
giving those cycles back to engineers, to HR, obviously with the right guardrails put around it, but making sure that does a person have to go and collect this? Does a person have to present this thing? Is it something that we can present that we have enough understanding of because we've already done the automated side of collecting that evidence? So, doing a lot of that, and again, I think a lot of GRC teams do own that questionnaire kind of function, RFP, RFI. And there's a lot of time to be saved there as well of like, okay, I'm not manually answering all of these questions because I already did the hard work on maintaining and gaining these reports and attestations from doing a cake or doing a cake light to where it's like, okay, I did the work here, throw it at the wall, and then give me the rest of the questions based off of your confidence on how accurate are these answers. If you're not confident, that means we probably got to tweak something, but do it once, use it many. And I think that's something that's really going to enable GRC to move faster is do it once, use it many. Questionnaires, evidence, and otherwise as well.
What's a cake?
I would love to tell you exactly what that acronym stands for. It's just a massive questionnaire.
Okay.
It's like a, not me gonna go Google it because my foot's in my mouth now.
I'm sorry. I was just like, okay, I've not heard
Questionnaire.
that one. Okay, I like the concept of a cake
Consensus
light.
Assessments Initiative Questionnaire. It is a self-assessment tool from the CSA, so Cloud Security Alliance.
Okay.
I've only heard it called a cake, to be honest, and I honestly didn't know what the cake stood for. It's just a really long questionnaire, but they're standardized questions that a lot of GRC departments or security teams will build out a cake or a cake light. Cake light is like the miniature version of the cake, so it's like
Yeah.
less questions. That answers a lot of standardized questions to where they can just throw those to sales professionals to say, "Oh, you have a customer or prospect that wants to know about our security program, give them our cake." And then we'll answer other questions. So it's kind of helping with reducing the questionnaires that we ingest by providing something proactively. So it's that kind of that trust and assurance layer where it's like, oh, proactively, I'm going to give you all of these things, and then I'm happy
Yep.
to absorb what's left. Whether they use it or not depends on your customer and prospect that you're working with.
not as tasty as what I was imagining,
No.
but
Mm-mm.
yeah,
It could
yeah,
be tasty though to
could be.
answer less
It's
questions.
true. That's true. That's
Like
true.
teaches their own
I
carnival ride, I guess.
like it. Yeah, yeah. Well, Cass, I'm afraid it's been too much fun, and what I mean by that is you're
And you
going to
want to run
be
away from
asked
GRC.
back.
Yeah,
So
you're going to
thank
be
you.
rocked.
Yeah, you have you're part-time podcaster now. So, but
Love
thank
it.
you for jumping in. Really appreciate it, David. Thanks as always, and thank you all for jumping in today, joining us for this conversation on Masters of Data. And we'll see you on the next episode. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks so much. Go on and be great.